DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself. It's going to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then what we do is we put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, this daily masterclass, one lifestyle. This is a way of living here. We call this Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we are going into part 3 of 5, where we are talking the 21 must-have soft skills that you will need in your life moving forward. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you do, how you do it, where you do it, what language you do it in. These soft skills you will need moving forward in life. So we have already gone over the first. If you missed parts 1 and 2, then just go back. Listen to parts 1 and 2. We were talking the personal skills. So now, perfect timing. We are now on the social skills. And again, I'm getting this from a website called ionos.com. IONOS.com. They have listed out these 21 soft skills. I've explained what soft skills are and why they matter back in episode 1 of this series. Go back and listen to that if you haven't already. If you did and you forgot, go back and listen to it again. All that being said, let's get straight into it. We are starting at skill number 8, actually skill number 9, but first I have to introduce social skills. So this is Ionos's explanation of what it means to have social soft skills. Quote, soft skills often refer to those skills that involve social interaction, i.e., with colleagues and superiors. For many employers, for example, it's important to know whether an applicant is a team player or is particularly communicative during an interview. Social skills cannot replace professional qualifications, but they can enhance them and, in some cases, make all the difference. Depending on the job description, they can even be a key prerequisite. During the application process, employers try to get a realistic picture of the applicant's social skills. Conversely, your social skills often determine how settled you feel at work and how you interact with other colleagues, which is what most jobs require, even in offices that have computer workstations, close quote. So this is Ionos. Their website is directly targeted towards you trying to get a job and advance in your career. Now, while that's not specifically what we are talking about here at Work on Your Game, every one of us has some kind of job, whether you're running a business, whether you're a freelancer, whether you're trying to work somewhere, you do work somewhere. Social skills matter because you're dealing with human beings. The only way you can make money is by serving the needs of somebody, which is usually a human, and then you get paid by somebody, which is also usually a human. So you need social skills no matter what you do, even if you're not a, quote, people person, close quote. You still need social skills on some level, especially with people that you work with superiors who you work for, with people who work for you, and with the people that you are serving. Because if you can't communicate with them, you don't have the social tools to deal with them, you damn sure won't be able to get their money. So this matters a lot. So these next, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 social skills matter a lot. We're going to go over the first 4 today, then 3 more, then we get into the methodical skills. So let's get right into it. So the first social skill, which is point number 9 in our list of 21 here, is empathy. Quote, this is from Ionos, quote, being empathetic means that you can put yourself in your colleague's shoes, whether it be in the event of success or failure. Your social intuition also enables you to react sensitively and respectfully to certain situations. Some external or personal factors may also have an impact on your work. If, for example, an employee's performance isn't up to scratch because they are going through a tough time in their private life, show understanding. Empathy in the workplace helps you stay human in difficult situations. So this topic of empathy is one that I have never done an episode on empathy on the Work on Your Game show, despite having nearly 2,000 episodes, because I am no expert on empathy. I will tell you that up front. And a lot of males, especially males that come from the kind of environment that I come from, it is not encouraged for us to be empathetic. It is not encouraged for us to learn empathy. I had never even heard the word empathy until I was probably in my mid to late 20s. Maybe with females, not maybe, but with females, I have found that the skill comes a lot more naturally to them. And based on the environment that you come from, females are much more based on the environment that I came from, I'll speak for myself, is much more socially acceptable for females to be empathetic than it is for males to be empathetic. Even the way that we are treated by other people, not treated with empathy as much. In the era that I came from, males were supposed to be, tough, strong, don't show weakness, etc., etc. Whereas females, that was okay. But things have changed over the subsequent generations, maybe the current up and coming generation, let's say people who are in their teens right now, things are a little bit different, not necessarily better, but just different. So when it comes to empathy, some of the things that get listed here, even though I'm no expert on this topic, I can definitely speak on it because I do see the value in it, even though I'm not great at it. So this is a little bit of self-acceptance, a little bit of self-reflection, knowing who you are, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, as we talked about in the previous episode. So being empathetic means being able to put yourself in another person's shoes and feel how they're feeling, not just see what they're doing, but take yourself out of yourself. Stop focusing on yourself so much for a moment and be able to focus on another person and just feel their energy and feel what they're going through. And this is a key communication tool. I would consider empathy to be a communication tool because communication is not just your ability to orate and speak. It's also your ability to listen. It's your ability to feel what another person is going through. And this is something that Malcolm X talked about in his book, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. He talked about how whenever he would speak to an audience, especially when he was speaking to an audience of ghetto black people, his words, he would say, I could tell when the tension was a little bit higher than usual. I could tell when something was off in that audience because he could feel. He had empathy for those people because he knew them inside and outside. So he knew exactly how to talk to them. He knew exactly how to market to them with his words and with his speech and with the things that he was saying, with his rhetoric. And this is something that any of you who's a salesperson, if you have an audience, if you're a coach, if you sell courses, if you write books, your target audience, you must have a strong level of empathy for that audience. And empathy, again, doesn't mean that you feel sorry for them. Empathy means you can feel what they're feeling. Therefore, when you can feel what another person is feeling, you know what happens? You know how to talk to them. You know how to market to them. You know how to promote to them. You know what to sell to them. You know what words to say to trigger them. You know how to move them to action. When you have a high level of empathy for a person or a group of people, you know the exact words and the exact actions to use to move those people to do what you want them to do. So anyone you've ever seen or known, or if you happen to be this person who has an audience and you can really move them to action, you have that power, that is empathy. So anybody you see out there who's an influencer, who has a really activated audience, they have empathy. The Kardashians have empathy. Who's Bruno Mars has empathy. Donald Trump had empathy. You may not think so, but I think so. He had empathy because he knew how to move that audience. Whether you agree with him or not, he knew how to move that audience. Anyone who has an audience, Dua Lipa, she has empathy. These are people who can speak to their audience, and that audience is ready to move immediately because of their empathy. Any of you who runs a business and you ever hire an influencer online because of the level of engagement that they have with their audience, you know that when they promote something, that their audience is going to go move and go buy that thing or click over to your website. Those are the people you're looking for. You're not looking for the people who necessarily have the biggest audience, but the people who have the most empathy with their audience, i.e. that when they tell their audience something, the audience believes it and the audience takes action on it. In social media, the metrics, they call that engagement, but what it really is at a deeper level, it is empathy. So your ability to stay human in difficult situations, as they talk about here, being sensitive and respectful to other people's situations. This is your social intuition. This is your ability to understand things instinctively without having them spelled out for you. These all play into your level of empathy. And the thing about when you're working with other people, whether you're working for them, they're working for you, you're working together. If someone is not performing up to their level, how do you deal with them? Do you just berate them and beat them up? Do you just completely ignore them? What do? You shut them out? Do you try to figure out what's going on with them? What do you do? And any of you who's dealt with a boss, I've dealt with a lot of bosses, whether in the work world, coaches in the sports world. Some of them had high levels of empathy. Some of them had none whatsoever, or at least they didn't know how to use it if they did have it, and it hurt their relationships with the people that were supposed to be performing for them, and then it hurt the overall performance of the organization. Eventually hurt that person's career and their chances to move forward because of their lack of empathy, or at least their lack of ability to use it. So as it says here, empathy helps you stay human in difficult situations. And many of us males especially, speaking from the male perspective, we focus so much on productivity and getting the result and just winning and achieving this thing and just getting the win, getting that getting that checkbox, crossing that thing off the to-do list. But sometimes we forget our humanity in the process of going after the goals. And this list that we're going over here, these traits that we're going over here, hopefully serves to help remind you that empathy matters a lot when you're dealing with other people. The better you can engage people emotionally and better feel how they're feeling and let them know that you feel how they're feeling, the more they will move on your behalf. People will move mountains for you when they feel like you have empathy for them. Moving on to the next point. Today we are talking again the top 21 must-have soft skills for life. Number 10 is integrability. Integrability or integrability. I don't know how we're going to say that. I'll just give you both. Let's get into what integrability means. Quote, social structures are often difficult to break down. When you start a new job, however, you don't have to try too hard to integrate yourself into the existing social groups and help them flourish when you're high in integrability. You do not remain the new person for long, but manage to become an independent part of the social group in the workplace. Colleagues quickly turn into acquaintances and even friends. Integration does not mean merely complying with the prevailing conventions. Capable of integrating well, you manage to help shape the environment. You will quickly become an essential part of the social construct. So the way that I would define this integrability, if I was to put it in my own words, is this your ability to join a group, get involved with the group, at the same time maintaining your personal independence. So you have the things about you to make you stand out from everyone, but at the same time, you're not separating yourself from everyone. You are still part of the group, but you're still an individual at the same time. So that's why these are soft skills, because I kind of use that same kind of structure in the definition with so many of these skills, that there's a fine line between, yes, you are this, but at the same time, you're this. That's why it's a soft skill. If it was a hard skill, and it would just be plain black and white, this is what it is, this is how we measure it, this is how we count it, you either are or you're not. Soft skills, it doesn't work like that. And this is why so many people slip up and trip up with soft skills, and or they just don't have them, or they're just completely unaware of them because it's not so black and white. So this is what integrability is. It's your ability to join a group, find your space in the group at the same time without losing yourself. And this is something that happens in even relationships. When two people get together, you want to find your space in the relationship with that other person, your partner, at the same time, not losing your personal identity to where you don't have anything going on yourself anymore. This is part of integration. This is part of the integration that you need in any area of life. And as it says here, this is what they emphasize. Integrate yourself into the existing social groups and helping them flourish. In other words, you join the team and the team gets better because you're there. Now, if the team gets better when you leave, then there's something wrong with your integrability, at least with that group. Maybe you're just the wrong person for that group, but you'd be perfect in another group. This happens in sports teams all the time. I had teammates who were good players on paper, but on our teams, they just didn't fit. So they need to go find a different team. They'd be great on another team, but they weren't good on our teams. So integrability is your ability to fit into that team and add value to it without taking anything. You put more things on the table than you take off the table, kind of like a potluck dinner. So that's what integrability is. How well can you integrate into the group, make it better, while at the same time making yourself better? Can you do good and help the team do good at the same time? In the sports world, for example, and I know this happens in the business world too, but in the sports world, oftentimes you see athletes who will join the team, and either they will make the team better and make themselves, they have to kind of not be the full version of themselves, or by trying to be the full version of themselves, they're actually hurting the overall goals of the team. It's hard to find that right mix. And this is something that any of you who watch pro sports, a sport like basketball, baseball, football, any team sport, this happens all the time with the role players. Now with the star players, they usually are able to fully realize themselves. They're able to self-actualize on any team because they're the star. The team is going to kind of adjust itself around the stars all times. But with the role players, it's really important that a role player in the NBA or in the NFL or in baseball, I'm sure hockey as well, find the right team to be on to where they can self-actualize and be the full version of what their capabilities are. At the same time, by being a full version of themselves, they're actually helping the team get better. And sometimes a role player can spend their whole career in the NFL or baseball or the NBA never getting on that right team to where they could really self-actualize and help the team at the same time. And sometimes it's just the bad luck of the draw. Sometimes it's just you don't get on that right team at the right time and it just doesn't work for you. because you're on a team, you're a small forward, but you're on the same team as LeBron James, so you don't really get to play because LeBron's playing the whole game. And when he comes out of the game, everything's discombobulated because the whole team is built around him, which should be. You don't get to self-actualize on that team because it's just the wrong place at the wrong time, not because you can't play. And that happens a lot of times in the sports world. It happens in the business world. It happens in just in everyday life of people often. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't realize it until it's too late and we blow our opportunity to go find a better one. So sometimes when the integrability is off, the best thing and smartest thing you can do is not adjust yourself or adjust the situation, but just go find a new situation. Moving on to point number 11. We are talking to 21 key soft skills that you will need in life moving forward. Number 11 is ability to communicate well. Now, this one there's a lot to this one right here. Now, communication is something that we talked about many times here on the show. And then before I get to any of my things, now, empathy and integrability, I haven't done episodes really on integrability or empathy, but actually on integrability, before I even get into this communication one, we have talked about teamwork. And in episode 1702, I told you if you want team success, you got to have everyone in the right role. So please check episode 1702. And before I forget, in the middle of this, I have a text line, 305-384-6894. Send me a text message. Let me know the most valuable, insightful things you got from today's episode. Again, that number, 305-384-6894. I mean to say that at the top of the episode, but I forgot again today. So send me a text. Let me know the most insightful thing, light bulb moment you get from today's episode. As we do more about this team thing. Episode 1591, why you need a team around you, getting the right people on that team. Episode 1413, how sports teams evaluate players. This is a big part of your integrability. A team is looking at you. Yes, okay, we see you have skill, but is your skill going to help us? Because see, your skill might help this team over here, but it's not going to help the team across town. It might help the Knicks, but it's not going to help the Lakers. So teams are evaluating not just can you play, but also can you play with us. That matters a whole lot. You got to be on the right team. Episode 1388, why you want to fill your team with A players. And what exactly does that mean? Check that episode. Episode number 1187, 3 necessary roles that must be filled on a successful team. Episode 1155, getting the weak links off of your team. Episode 1011, traits of the best possible teammates that you can have. Episode 1008, 3 days earlier, traits of the worst possible teammates that you can have. Episode 557, inspiring your team with energy as a leader. Episode 551, what to do when your teammates are not very good. I got so many episodes on teamwork, I'm not even going to give you all of them. I'll give you a few more. Episode 386, how to be a valuable member of a team. Episode 374, how to lead your team verbally, and I'll give you one more. Episode 356, how to set the example for your team. So start with those episodes that I just gave you. All of these are in the show notes down below, and make sure you're checking these to follow up on everything I've talked about so far. Now let's move on to point number 11, which is ability to communicate well. Now, quoting from our source, ionos.com, quote, the ability to communicate well is one of the most important skills in many companies. As a communication expert, it's easy for you to formulate your thoughts concisely and to be a suitable conversation partner. This often extends to digital platforms on which you maintain a pleasant tone, e.g. in chat or by email. You will also be able to correctly interpret signals and understand instructions. You can also communicate any concerns you have confidently, and this skill will more than likely be put to the test during your interview. Boy, this is a big one right here. Ability to communicate well. All of these are big ones. But communication is, I would say, the most important skill if you're going to join a team, if you're going to build a team, if you want to be part of a team, if you want to start a team. You must have the ability to communicate. Why? Because first of all, people need to know who you are and what you're about. They can't figure that out until you open your mouth and express something. If people are deciding whether or not they want to join you, they want to run with you, they want to be on your team, you got to tell them what the team is about. Why is the team coming together? You might have to let them know that there is a team. If you don't communicate it, how would they even know that it exists? So communication skills are a big thing here. And then once you start with the team, I don't care how much you love the people on your team, how much they love you, how much success is happening, there will be conflicts. There will be things that need to be communicated that may be uncomfortable for you or for other people. There are things that you or others need to hear that may be uncomfortable, and somebody's going to need to communicate that, and someone's going to need to listen to that. And then there's going to be a back and forth, and weak communication skills will only make that worse. It'll only make it harder, or it'll make it not happen at all, and then things just get worse because they're just building up in between you and other people, and nobody's saying anything. So communication skills are huge. Anytime you're dealing with other people, you must have strong communication skills, which means going backwards, you got to formulate your thoughts in a concise way, and you must be a suitable conversation partner. They have that emphasized here on the site. Suitable conversation partner, which means you listen well, people feel like they're being seen, recognized, and heard, and you are able to communicate your thoughts in a clear, concise way, meaning brevity, like we just talked about a few episodes ago, and I'm sure this is going to be one of those episodes that I'm mentioning all the time. Episode 1738, brevity, the skill of making your point without talking too much. Some people just talk too much when they're making their point. They make the point, but then they just keep going, and they make a whole bunch of non-points in addition to making their main point. So being able to communicate your thoughts concisely matters so that people actually get what you're saying and doesn't get lost in the soup of everything else that you said on top of that. And listening, so that people feel like they're being recognized. If someone feels like you're not listening to them, they will not listen to you, all right, even if they actually heard you. So this is a big part of communication, is remember that listening and speaking are equally important in the area of communication. And being able to interpret signals and understand instructions. This is a big one, me as an employer. Now, when I have people working for me and I give them instructions and then they don't follow the instructions that I know I gave them, I get really annoyed. And I'm like, yo, I just told you that. Now, if you didn't know and I didn't tell you, that's one thing. But if I told you and you didn't do it, that means your communication skills are off, or my communication skills are off. Maybe I didn't say it clearly enough. Maybe you weren't listening. Usually is the latter. And that really pisses me off if I feel like somebody's not listening, not paying attention, or they're not paying attention to the detail. Very important thing. So your communication skills are very important, especially when someone's giving you instruction. You want to make sure you hear it, because at the professional level, usually people are going to give you instruction one time, and they're going to expect you to understand it after that one time they gave it to you. And if you fumble, you're going to have a problem. You might be out of a job. So being able to communicate any challenges you have or anything that you don't know, also what's missing, that matters as well in communication. So when we talk communication skills, I have so many episodes talking about this. I'm going to give you a few. Episode 1399, working on your nonverbal communication game. Understand that most of communication is not the words that you say, but it's everything else around the words. Check that episode again. That's episode 1399. Episode 1264, 3 communication skills you must master ASAP, meaning if you don't have them now, you needed them yesterday. Episode 1257, invest in your communication skills. Episode 766, this one directly related, the 7 biggest business communication mistakes that people make. In episode 568, I'll give you this last one, the communication skills you must learn for life. Notice I said life, not for your career, not for business, not for sports, for all of life. Anything you do, you need these communication skills. So make sure you check all of those episodes. And let's move on to our last point for today, which is point number 12. We are talking the top 21 most valuable soft skills that you will need in life. Number 12, ability to receive criticism. I love that this is on the list. Let's read what Ionos has to say. Quote, you have the quite rare ability to deal well with any criticism you may receive. This means that you neither react impulsively nor emotionally to it, but use the input to improve yourself. Criticism often hits people unprepared and harms their self-confidence. They feel attacked and are pushed out of their comfort zone. However, criticism usually has a justified origin. Those who know how to deal with it and use it constructively will tend to advance quicker. They said a whole lot there. And I'm going to add a lot on this topic of criticism here through what I'm about to say to you right now, and also through some episodes I want to refer you to. I've talked many times about criticism, especially coming from the sports world. Whereas I don't know exactly I don't know if there's a consistent way of doing it in the business world, but in the sports world, any of you who's an athlete or a coach, you know that in the sports world, we get direct with people. If you're a coach, you tell your players to their faces when they're messing up, when they made a mistake. When they made a mistake, don't even know they made a mistake. If they made one and they're trying to not take ownership of that mistake, you let them know directly to their faces. I played sports. I had coaches do it to me. I've been a player who did it to other players. I've been a player who was watching one of my fellow players play and let them know when they were making a mistake, or even trash talking to an opponent, letting them know when they made a mistake. And we expect it from our coaches. We expect them to let us know directly when a mistake has been made. Whereas I have found in the business world, people are a little bit more passive. People are not as direct because that's not the culture. It's not the culture in the business world to just tell somebody directly to their face when they messed up. Maybe it is in certain companies, but I'm saying in business in general, people don't do it. People are a little bit more diplomatic in business. Whereas in the sports world, people are not really diplomatic. People will just tell you to your face, you're fucking up. They'll let you know that you're fucking up. Everybody in the damn gym will let you know that you're fucking up in the sports world. In the business world, it is not usually like that. But your ability to receive the criticism, especially when it's coming from someone who you know means well of you, someone who is actually trying to help you, or someone whose authority you respect, you gotta be willing to take that criticism. Like, yo, you need to work on your jump shot because you keep missing all your shots. Like, yeah, you need to box out and grab some damn rebounds. Like, hey, you need to get in shape because you're out of breath and we only been practicing for 20 minutes. That's unacceptable. You gotta be willing to take those criticisms. And a lot of times athletes, especially amateur athletes, immature athletes who do not have this, they don't have emotional self-regulation, they have a low level of discipline and not much mental toughness. You know how they take criticism? They take every criticism as an attack. They take every criticism as some personal attack from the coach. You wouldn't believe how many players I've had reach out to me over the last 15 years and tell me some form of, and here's the quote, the coach is hating on me, close quote. I didn't know so many coaches hated on players. I didn't know. Because if you believe all the messages that I got, every coach in the world is hating on at least a couple of the players. And it's usually the ones who don't get in the game, that the coaches are hating on them. Listen, athletes out there, the coach is not hating on you. And the coaches who are listening to this, you take this sound bite and you play this in your locker room. The players, the coach is not hating on you. Okay, the coach has no need to hate on you. All right, the coach has a job that, especially you amateur athletes, all right, the coach is getting paid. You ain't making no money. All right, so the coach, how about the coach be hating on you? You broke. All right, the coach is the only one getting paid in the room. So they have no need to hate on you. All right, they are trying to win games. If you're not getting in the game, it's probably because your presence won't help the team win. Now, if you disagree, then you can either A, go talk to your coach and ask them how you can help contribute to winning games and let the coach tell you. B, go find a new team in which you can prove the old coach wrong and help that new team win so you can prove the old coach, hey, you should have let me play because look what I'm doing on this team. Or C, shut the fuck up and keep working. Close quote. So coaches, that's the end of the little soundbite you should play for your players. Let them listen to the whole episode on their own. But receiving criticism is a big thing here, people, because the thing with having a high level of confidence is that we learn, especially us males, especially coming from the environment that, if you come from a similar environment to where I came from, you come from a sports world where it's very macho and it's very masculine. I guess some people would even call it toxic masculine. We build up our confidence so high that we don't want to listen to any criticism. Somebody wants to criticize us, we don't necessarily say that they're hating. We just learn to dismiss it. We just learn to brush it off. Like, y'all, you know what you're talking about. Shut the hell up. You know, look how many points I had last game. Like, you ain't better than me. Why are you trying to offer me criticism? We sometimes condition ourselves to not listen to any criticism. But while at the same time of having that super high level of confidence, because I already told you, too much confidence is not your problem, you also had to have the humility to know that you need to keep working on your game. Now, check this out. If you had the humility to keep working on your game, what are you telling yourself unconsciously? Well, my game's not perfect. Because if your game is perfect, you wouldn't be working on it, would you? So since your game is not perfect, that means there needs to be someone in your life who can criticize you to your face. You take it, you accept it, and you ask yourself, where is the truth in this criticism? Even if the person is not that great of a communicator, there's probably some truth in that criticism. There got to be somewhere in there. I had plenty of coaches who were not great communicators. When they criticized me, maybe I was able to take it and use it in the moment. There were some coaches who were good enough communicators that I could take the criticism and I could find the truth in it. And there were some coaches who were terrible communicators that when they offered criticism, I wasn't able to hear any of it because their communication wasn't good enough to get through my already belief, my ego of saying that this coach is kind of hating. And it really wasn't because they were hating. Coach wasn't hating. And I never used that thought process, but just to put it in the terms of what I hear from today's athlete. But just the fact that I wasn't able to hear it. My ego didn't allow it to get through because their communication wasn't good enough to get through my ego. But a good coach is able to do this. And some coaches don't give a damn. They're just going to tell you what you need to hear. And if you don't hear it, then you'll be sitting your ass on the bench or in the bleachers. The whole point here is you got to be willing to take criticism from somebody. Every athlete out there who's listening to me right now, every business person, I don't care if you're the owner, I don't care if your business is doing $10 million a day, you got to be able to take criticism from somebody because you ain't perfect. I don't care how great you are compared to your peers, you're not perfect. Who is able to criticize you to your face and you take it? That's a question that you need to have an answer to. If you don't have an answer, you have a problem. That's for everybody listening to this right now. I don't care what position you have. Now, let me give you some episodes on criticism. Episode 18, going way back to 2016, the topic was dealing with criticism. Episode number 13, 16, correction is not criticism. When someone tells you that you did something wrong, here's how to do it better. They're not criticizing you as a human. They're not criticizing you personally. Get your ego out of the way and take the criticism of your work. And there's a huge difference, everyone, between your work being criticized and you as a person being criticized. Again, this is another one that I see happen with young athletes all the time. The coach criticizes your play. They say, you need to make a layup, you need to run faster, you need to recover on defense, you need to challenge the shot, you need to get in shape, you need to grab a rebound, and you, player, you take it as a personal attack on you. The coach didn't say you as a person is wrong, they say you as a player is wrong. And there's two different things. You as a person is not the same as you the player. You the player is not in shape. Are you in shape? Okay, you're not in shape, so shouldn't they be criticizing you? What do you want them to do? Say nothing? So you get your ass kicked all up and down the court in front of your mom and your girlfriend and your aunt? Or would you rather your coach tell you in practice when nobody's listening, nobody's there? All right, take the criticism of your work. There's a huge difference between your work being criticized and you as a person being criticized. And you, the person receiving the criticism, you must have the maturity to understand the difference, even if your coach or boss or whoever's criticizing you doesn't have the communication skill to explain this to you. They don't have the communication skill to articulate to you, hey, I'm not criticizing you as a human being. I'm not criticizing your existence. I'm criticizing your work. You got to be able to understand that even if they don't explain it to you. I just explained it to you, so now you don't have that excuse anymore. Episode number 1240. Stop trying to avoid criticism. All right, you want criticism. The thing is, you want criticism from people who are qualified to criticize you, meaning people who have no emotional stake in how you feel, people who want you to do better, people who are smarter than you, more experienced than you, better than you. They should be offering you criticism because they can see what you can't see. They know what you don't know. They can ask the questions that you wouldn't even think to ask, let alone could you answer. You want criticism from these people. So stop trying to avoid criticism and be praised by people who just want to kiss your ass and tell you how great you are when they don't know shit. Even if there was something wrong with you, they couldn't point it out because they don't know. Find the people who will criticize you. All right, the criticism is some kind of cliche out there. I'm going to butcher it here, so I'll say I'm paraphrasing. We would benefit a lot more from the criticism that would do us good rather than the praise that makes us feel good. Something along those lines, but you get the point of what I'm saying here. Criticism will help you more than praise for most of us. Episode number 957, how to earn your right to criticize. Yes, you must earn your right to criticize another person. Just because you got a Twitter account does not mean you can criticize people. Episode number 720, how to handle criticism, because you will receive it if you're following what I'm telling you here today. How do you handle that criticism? Let me tell you one key to handling criticism. As soon as somebody criticizes you, the first question you ask yourself is not, is this person hating on me? How does my ego feel about it? Don't ask yourself those questions. Those are bad questions. Here's the best question to ask yourself. The next time you get criticism, what is the truth in this criticism? Even if it's not all true, what is the truth in this criticism? What is something that this person is saying that is actually true that I need to understand? And I'll give you one more. Episode number 1031. The value of not friends in your life. What is a not friend? That's a person who's around you who does not need to be your friend. They do not need you to like them. They do not need to hang out with you on the weekends. But you do need to have them around because they're a person who will keep it real with you and tell you the truth. Whereas most of your friends are going to tell you some bullshit to make you feel good about yourself. But the bullshit won't get you to the professional level and damn sure won't keep you there. But this not friend, they will get you to the pro level and keep you there because they'll tell you things that you need to hear, not the things you want to hear. Let me ask you a question. How many not friends do you have in your circle right now? How many people do you have around you who don't give a damn about how you feel about them, but they will tell you the truth about what you need to do? If you don't have any, and I suspect many of you have zero, that is a problem, and you need to fix that problem yesterday. Recapping our points here today, we are on now talking about social skills, the 21 key must-have social skills for you moving forward. Number 9, empathy. Number 10, integrability. Number 11, ability to communicate well. And number 12, ability to receive criticism. Tomorrow we'll be going into part 4. Again, this is a whole list of 21 of these traits. And one more time, I have a text line. The number is 305-384-6894. I want you to text me. Let me know what was the most valuable thing you got from today's episode. What really was an eye-opener? What did I remind you of that maybe you knew about but you hadn't thought about in a while? Or maybe you stopped implementing a long time ago, but now that I brought it up, you're going to start thinking about it harder and actually doing something with it even better. What is that? Share with me. Send me a text, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.